Hello viewers, and it is my pleasure to once again welcome you to the Stakeholder Outreach Initiative by P3 World Council. It just happened once that in my school, during a quiz competition, I was asked a question as to where are the Panama hats made? And of course, the answer, what I thought was, of course, if it is a Panama hat, it would be in Panama only. But then when I found the answer, it was quite surprising to me. Well, today I bring you to a country where the Panama hats are made. I'm sure you would have started to guess where we are taking you today. And the second clue that I would give you is this country is the world's largest exporter of bananas. All right, still not. The second one is this country is the third largest exporter of cut flowers. And the last hint that I can give you is that this country is also known as the Orchid Capital of the world. I won't keep you much guessing because today we are in a country known as Ecuador. And this country is in Latin America. And my guest today is Mr. Alejandro Perez. Welcome, Alejandro, for this Stakeholder Outreach Initiative by P3 World Council. Let me first begin by introducing to you about Alejandro. Alejandro Perez is a lawyer from the Universiad de las Américas. He has a post-degree in public management from the Instituto de Altos, Estudios, Nacionales. He is currently a candidate for a master's degree in finance with a major in stock market and banking from UDLA. He is an active member of the following international organization: World Association of PPP Units and Professionals based in Geneva, Switzerland, Center for International Legal Studies based in Salzburg, Austria, Instituto Iberoamericano, the Derecho Finanzas based in Madrid, Spain. He is an associate attorney in the Department of Natural Resources and Energy, as well as financial and banking law at the Flor and Hurtado law firm based in Quito, Ecuador. He has experience in financing operations granted by multilateral and international organizations, public and private, in operations with and without sovereign guarantee. So viewers, we have someone who has a blend of experience in the area of finance as well as law, I mean the legal aspect. Welcome, Alejandro, and on behalf of my team at P3 World Council, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to share insights with us.
It's my pleasure to join you in this conversation, Harshal. Thanks for the invitation and how we can provide some information to the viewers about Ecuador and its current situation. And yes, Ecuador, it's the country where the Panama hats are made,
Yes.
and we are also exporters of fruits that you mentioned.
Flowers, Orchid Capital. That's why it's known as the Orchid Capital. Yeah. And
Correct.
if I'm getting it correct, Alejandro, the reason the Panama hats, I mean, it's the thing is the hats are made in Ecuador, but they're called as Panama hats is because it is from Panama that they are internationally distributed. If I'm getting it correct.
Yeah, actually, it was a former president from Ecuador that he lived in Panama, and he started selling these hats that are made from Ecuador. But people know these type of hats as Panama hats due to this reason. But yeah, are made here in Ecuador, in the coast region and also in the highland region. So are very nice to wear.
Okay, that's good to know. All right. To begin with, Alessandro, my first question to you is: we would certainly like to understand how is the entire business environment affected in Ecuador, in your country, because of COVID-19? What has been the impact? What has been the severity of the impact, and which are the key sectors you would like to highlight are like heavily affected because of COVID-19?
Yeah, sadly, Ecuador, as many countries in the Latin region, has been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. And especially in Ecuador, it has been impacted in two ways. First, to the revenues that Ecuador obtained by the sale of oil, which is the major export product that we have, and to the private sector, which has been severely affected. For example, the hospitality industry, we have witnessed the closure of more than 30% of hotels, nearly a 40% of restaurants and nightlife, such as bars and clubs. The retail sector has also suffered due to social distance measures, which caused that some stores must
Yeah.
close, and some of them have to move to an e-commerce model that it will take some time to develop and adapt to the consumer's habit. One important sector that also has been affected is the real estate. It is estimated a suspension of at least 40% of the projects that were under construction, and a contraction for more than 60% of projects for the next year. When you go to the street, you see every day that more commercial units, as well as apartment houses, are being in rent or sale in places that were previously unavailable.
Okay.
This has led to a significant drop in rental and sales prices also. The financial industry has been able to avoid the situation despite having rescheduled almost 60% of the loans that are currently in force.
Okay.
But we expect that these problems related with mortgage credit sectors specifically will have their worst part in the early next year, because many people has lost their jobs or had their monthly salary significantly reduced. The situation in the labor sector in general, it's really bad. As May of this year, only 60.7% of the economical active population has full employment. This means that underemployment is above the 70%, and an unemployment rate is above 13%.
Okay.
Finally, the GDP is expected to be contracted by at least 10% by the next year. And the worst thing that we are facing right now is that this is an election year in Ecuador, and we have 18 candidates for president. So we don't know yet which will be the path that the future government will take under this current situation.
Okay, that's a serious situation out there. What I understand from you, Alessandro, is I mean some of the few sectors that are affected is primarily energy and the retail sector that has seen the brunt of the COVID-19 pandemic. Of course, healthcare comes in line, but healthcare right now is acting as a support mechanism. But impact has been heavily felt by the retail and the energy sector, is what I'm understanding from you.
Yes, that's correct, Harsh.
Okay, okay. All right. What I want to understand from you, Alessandro, is since you now mentioned that this is election year for Ecuador, I'm sure now when usually it happens that when an election comes and the candidates who are contesting for the elections, they usually try to speak about what they have done and what they will be doing. That has been the trend across everywhere. What I want to understand from you is
Yeah.
how has been the outlook for PPP projects when it comes to Ecuador, considering the local dynamics and the need and the transformation that is happening in the country. So, which are the sectors, which are the key sectors for PPP projects? I mean, you may tell me this answer like pre-COVID and post-COVID. How has the situation changed or impacted?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I need to. It is important to understand that Ecuador has its PPP law since 2016, which means that it is still in a phase of maturation. We are still knowing and understanding what a PPP means. So far, it has been possible to execute projects related with maritime ports, while there are other road projects that are currently pending. Nevertheless, one aspect that COVID-19 has highlighted is the lack of adequate infrastructure in the health sector, for example. Our current framework allows to develop PPP projects in the health sector, so we hope that in the medium term, we will take advantage of this possibility for the construction, improvement, and also management of health infrastructure that it's currently um, built, or the ones that are needed. Another aspect that also has caused the current situation is the fact that many students who previously attended to private schools will now move to the public system, which was lacking before the pandemic. So we also expect to develop PPP projects in education sector.
Education sector.
We expect, however, a reduction to develop PPP projects related to energy and natural resources, although they are still sectors that require a lot of intervention. Here in Ecuador, most of the energy is produced by hydroelectrical generation. However, there are some projects related with renewable energies that have been developed in the past year, and it will be continued to develop in the following years. So that is the main outlook for the PPPs here in Ecuador. We are pushing and we are trying. We want that the new government realize that the health and education sectors can be developed through PPPs. So
Okay.
that's.
How about the transportation and the logistics sector? I mean, how is the uptake on that?
Well, as I mentioned, we already developed maritime firms. There are some projects related with roads. Mobilization itself, the infrastructure regarding with mobilization has not been developed under a PPP scheme. Most of the local governments develop directly through a public procurement process. So it's still need to develop an understanding which are the benefits of a PPP scheme for infrastructure projects here in Ecuador.
All right. So what I'm understanding from you, Alejandro, is healthcare and education are two important areas where Ecuador in the coming future would see a lot of PPP projects being announced. You also mentioned, Alejandro, that the PPP unit and I mean, PPP is something very new for your country. What I want to understand is, does Ecuador have a PPP unit which usually comes under the Ministry of Finance?
No, actually, we don't have the classic scheme of a PPP unit. Actually, the Ministry of Finance does not play any relevant role in a PPP project. Only if there are public resources assigned to the development of the project. Here in Ecuador, each public entity, municipality, ministry, have their own PPP unit, but it is not a real PPP unit because it's the same structure that manage in some cases these PPPs. So I think that we have a lack of institutionality related with PPPs. We only have one PPP committee that is entitled to know and approve PPP projects, but this committee is an ad hoc committee. It's not a permanent institution. So that's another point that must be taken into account by the next government and establish a real institutionality for PPPs.
So I mean, it does not exist in like an institution, but it's just like a committee. And what I'm understanding is different ministries has their own way of procuring a PPP project. So they're doing it on their own. That's what I'm understanding. So Alessandro, my next question to you is, what are the broad challenges? I mean, see, Ecuador being in a region where the surrounding countries are taking up PPP projects, I'm sure there must be some challenges and issues that your country faces when it comes to maybe PPP projects or any other aspect of it that has, stopped or has not seen the expected progress. So can you highlight on some of the broad issues and challenges that Ecuador faces?
Yes, in our short experience, we have seen that there are many deficiencies in the pre-contractual process. In fact, one of the ports that was granted under a PPP concession has been observed by the inspection authority as irregularities were found in the process of selection and contract negotiation. So this has motivated, for example, that the Ministry of Transport to discuss the possibility of a renegotiation of the contract, which has raised question about the rest of the projects. The greatest difficulty, as I mentioned, is the lack of institutionalism that we have. So you have different criteria by each public entity, and this certainly is causing that PPP projects cannot be developed at an expected pace. So we also have a problem with secondary regulations because this must be updated to allow more efficient structuring projects. Also, it is necessary to adequately coordinate with local governments regarding the processing and issuance of permits and license. So we need to, as a public sector, we need to understand the dynamic of a PPP, which means that all the public entities need to be in the same page, understand what is the difference of a common public procurement process or of a common concession. So we are still in the process of making that understanding and to try to develop this PPP in a major scale.
All right. From the response that you have given me, Alessandro, one thing that if I tie those things together, what I'm understanding is a strong regulatory framework or a strong legal framework is what is needed to, as a foundation that has to be laid to build up a strong PPP ecosystem for Ecuador. Alessandro, you are a legal expert. I mean, as what I read in your biography or as your introduction, how has the legal ecosystem evolved in Ecuador? I mean, I'm sure there'll be some bottlenecks that the local market would be facing when it comes to PPP projects, especially when I say I'm talking about the legal aspect. So can you highlight to our viewers what are the major challenges in general, basically, and also in regards to the local market? What are the legal challenges usually a project faces out there?
Well, before the 2016 PPP law, the country had a so-called State Modernization Act, which was enforced since 1993. This law was the base for some of the major concessions that were granted, such as the water and sanitation system of Guayaquil, which is the largest city in the country. Also, the construction, operation, and maintenance of the largest road that connects the coast and the highland regions. However, there is a wide variety of sectorial laws which contain their own requirements, conditions for the development of projects, which means that many projects cannot benefit from the incentives and provisions contained in the PPP law. The aspects that can be subject for international arbitration also has been limited, as well as the centers in which these disputes can be treated. This is due to a limitation foreseen in the Constitution regarding arbitration centers located in the Latin American region. This lack of marriage of the principal legislation with secondary legislation and also with local legislation that a municipality can enact has caused that the structuring of the PPP projects
Okay,
it's very low in comparison to other countries. So legal aspects must be uh, analyzed and must be updated
correct.
to a new reality.
It's a very, very important point you have made, Alessandro. And in fact, it's a good learning that can, be taken off that when it comes to PPP projects, right from the federal level to the state level to the local municipal level, the laws and the legal ecosystem has to correspond to each other. When that acts as a one ecosystem, that basically gives a nourishment and a strong base for a PPP project. If I'm understanding it correct from what you said just now.
Yeah, that's correct.
All right, Alessandro, can you highlight and can you help our viewers understand how is the investment outlook uh, when it comes to Ecuador? I mean, I'm talking about the upcoming COVID, because we are just now getting out of the COVID-19 pandemic. Lockdowns are almost getting over and markets are steadily opening up. We are just trying to restore things back. So when it comes to Ecuador, how is the investment outlook you see? Which are the key sectors you can highlight will be attracting a lot of investments in the next uh, uh, 8 to 10 months?
Um, as I mentioned, health sector it's requiring a lot of investment for administration of the current facilities that we have. Also, we realize that we need more and efficient facilities for the health sector. Infrastructure, as well as many parts in the Latin region, is still needed. We have a problem for housing, public housing. We need to develop also infrastructure that allows to create a more efficient road system that connects most of the provinces and municipalities in the country. Um, we have developed maritime ports, but these maritime ports um, are not part of a major ecosystem that includes road transportation, also the develop, for example, of airports.
Mhm.
Um, as many countries in the Latin region, infrastructure needs are still a pending situation to
Correct.
attend by governments.
That's correct. I mean, in short, I mean to say the all the major sectors when it comes to transport, logistics, healthcare, airports, retail. I mean, all the major sectors are quite open for investments because there's a lot of growth that the country. I mean, a lot of growth potential that the country has, and in the near future, I mean, it would for certainly. I mean, we hope that we get a stable government in Ecuador that can, give that needed confidence and trust to the international markets and international stakeholders who can come in and invest in the country. That's what we expect, basically. What I want to understand
That's
now,
right.
Alessandro, is you mentioned that there is a PPP committee that oversees, ad hoc PPP committee that oversees a lot of PPP projects, what are there in Ecuador currently. And ministries have their own way to look at it. How is the country? Because see, one of the major factors for success of PPP projects across elsewhere in the world has been development of the local workforce. So, how is it? How is Ecuador dealing with the aspect of capacity building and skill development of young graduates or new professionals who can for the upcoming 10 to 15 years, because these are the ones who would be running PPP projects in the future. So, how is Ecuador taking up, or are there any projects being run or efforts being taken to have capacity building and skill development?
Yes, we don't have. It is important to know that we don't have a public policy
Mm,
related with building and upskilling programs, specifically with the PPPs areas.
mhm,
However, most of the public servants and officers that work in PPPs or related with PPPs have attended to international programs, and but this has been an access individually by each public servant. So we need uh, a public policy related with this issue, because we understand that it is important to duly capacitate and promote the skills that the individuals have here in Ecuador.
Correct.
So there is a commitment with universities and other type of educational centers to
Mhm.
uh, try to uh, give programs that are mm, far away from the traditional ones. We don't want more lawyers. We don't want more um, people in business. We need people that is related with science, with health, and we are investing a lot.
Okay, all right. So you mean to say that a public policy definitely is needed in order to have the local empowerment? Because I understand, just hardly public servants going for international programs and coming back will not serve the purpose. There needs to be, as I call it, as a resident program, which is localized, understanding the local markets and giving knowledge about each different functional aspect of the dynamics of a project. That would be more essential, I feel, considering the level at which Ecuador is currently.
Yes, that's right.
Okay,
We need to develop that.
all
It's
right.
a pending task from a long time ago.
Okay, okay, all right. Alessandro, my closing question to you is in regards to the investors, the global investors and stakeholders. See, the one of the thing is what they look for is the bankability of PPP projects. And one thing that many times it happens that they are unaware about the local dynamics. So being the regional expert, and you've seen a lot of development in the local market out there. What would be your word of advice for international and global stakeholders and investors who are looking forward to be a part of the growth story of Ecuador, especially either through PPPs or any other way, expecting that there will be a change of leadership, and we hope to get a new leadership and a positive leadership coming in Ecuador. So, what would be your word of advice for global stakeholders?
Well, as I mentioned, it is important to understand that Ecuador is slowly understanding the dynamics of what a PPP means. Our experience with traditional concessions as far has been very positive.
Okay.
Uh, it is a country that has a great potential to develop energy and natural resource projects due to its geographical conditions. It is also a country that requires a large investment in health, education, and public infrastructure. We think that in the current situation, the best way is to carry out projects through unsolicited proposals, which
Yes.
gives a certain flexibility to the private proponent to design a project that, according to its experience, has the
Right.
necessary elements for its development and that guarantees its success in time. Also, the lack of public resources caused by this pandemic has limited the investment that the public sector can perform from now on, because the public budget is very tight. So we invite to the private sector to see Ecuador as a potential for these type of projects. We have a scheme and rules related to how to treat unsolicited proposals.
That's
So
good.
it's the best way to initiate a project right now. And also we are welcome to receive the investment that wants to develop and not only search an economical profit, and also a social and environmental one.
That's true. That's true. That's true. One point that you very rightly mentioned, and that's the way. I mean, that's a positive sign that you just spoke about. One is dealing with unsolicited proposals. In fact, I was talking to a very senior, experienced gentleman from Nigeria the other day as a part of this initiative, and he also highlighted Nigeria is the one of the most biggest countries of Africa, and the way they are dealing with unsolicited proposals. I mean, that's what he mentioned. They are welcoming it. The only thing that we need is an automated mechanism to just safeguard the entire ecosystem of PPPs when it comes to unsolicited proposals. And I'm glad, Alessandro, what you mentioned. Yes, we need a mechanism that helps manage unsolicited proposals in the right channel. That is what is important, and I'm glad
Yes.
that So,
Yes, we don't, as in comparison to other countries which don't want to deal with unsolicited proposals, we understand that the government has its limitations
correct.
for promoting projects. So we develop a framework to deal with unsolicited proposals, which also
Absolutely.
gives some benefits and some
Correct.
advantages to the private proponent. For
Yes.
example, it's very common to use a Swiss challenge methodology that allows to the private proponent to equal or propose a better deal if his tender has not been accepted by the public entity. So we want this to promote this competition among the private sector entities and companies. So we have also, for example, a very good um, framework for stepping rights that are very well received by financial institutions. So we understand in this short time that the PPP law has been enforced. We understand that we need to give the resources to attract this private investment and to keep that investment here in Ecuador.
Good to know that, Alessandro. And what I understand is definitely Ecuador is giving positive signs and a positive outlook when it comes to growth, when it comes to investments. And I'm sure our viewers would also find it valuable enough to understand a very detailed perspective from about Ecuador. I thank you, Alessandro, for spending some time and sharing your valuable views with us. And as P3 World Council, we are committed to supporting governments and nations when it comes to building the sustainable development goals and also achieving the national vision agendas. We are committed to help Ecuador in any way possible in regards to structuring their PPPs as a team and as a collaboration.
Yes, it was an honor, Harshal, to participate in this, to demonstrate that we we want to attract this private investment. We want to develop PPPs. We understand our limitations, so
Yes.
we need that the private sector collaborates in an
Correct.
actively manner in the
Yes.
development of these projects. So yes, I am at your disposal and hope that we can still having these conversations related with PPPs.
Absolutely. Alessandro, we all have our limitations, and that is the reason why P3 World Council has come up with an objective to have cross-pollination of ideas, opportunities, and best practices. Let us all we believe in a thing that if we share with each other, we all grow together. And nobody is different. We all are human beings. We all have the same needs, and we all need to come up. And that's where we are working towards it, to make sure that we all benefit out of this. We all grow with each other. We some success story from elsewhere, we share it with everyone else so that they also benefit out of it. So that's the objective that we keep, and I'm sure we would definitely work as a team going forward. And thank you so much, Alessandro, for taking time and being a part of the initiative. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Yeah, you can disconnect Alessandro from your end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Harshal.
Thanks.
Hope
It was a
hope
good
that
one.
hope that you find useful this
Yes,
conversation.
yes, of
As
course.
as you mentioned, we realize that we cannot do everything. We know
Yes,
our limitations,
correct.
and really hope that PPPs can be developed in a large scale with the new government. So let's
Absolutely.
see which will be the new government, the new president,
Correct.
and
Mhm.
see what will be this agenda.
Absolutely. I mean, we will be in touch. Definitely, I look forward to working with you as a team as to how can we take it up and how can we move forward in regards to creating a proper structure for PVPs.
Please, I am at your disposal for what you need.